In today's episode of Spiraling Up, our team looks at the new biggest challenge in professional services marketing. And then MB, Joe, and I will face off in our first ever NFL-style marketing draft. It is going to be a great time. Welcome, everybody. This is Spiraling Up with Hinge Marketing. Well, welcome back to Spiraling Up with Hinge Marketing. Look, we are just getting started with this new podcast. So if you're here with us for today's episode, let me say thank you for joining us. Thanks for joining us for these early episodes. Our vision for this podcast is simple. We want to create a podcast that is insightful for marketers and leaders at professional services firms, and we want to have some fun along the way. Joe, MB, how are you guys doing today? You guys ready to get started?
I don't think we can officially get started until I make some sort of reference to the weather. That's how these meetings go, right?
How's everything going then in the middle of March for you guys in Virginia?
We are glad to be done with the snow. We had quite a snowy winter here in Virginia, but it's been, high 60s, we had almost a 70-degree day, so I am here for spring.
I've been watching your surf videos, Austin, south side of the globe, and jealousy has reigned supreme. So I'm, in addition to just poking fun at the fact that we're talking about the weather, I am also just really excited to be hitting the beach up pretty soon.
Yeah. I mean, the jealousy cuts both ways, right? Whenever you guys are in winter, I'm in summer. For people that don't know, I'm living down in southern Brazil with my family. We just had a glorious summer season, carnival season. Things are, always lots of energy, and now things are starting to cool off. Some of the tourists are heading back to their daily life. So, things are going well. I'm excited to talk about this episode. We've got some fun things planned today. MB, why don't we start with our pivotal story for today?
All right, let's do it. Welcome back to Pivotal Stories, where we explore the intersection of marketing, business trends, and the wider world. Now, we've been delving into Hinge's recently released high-growth study for 2025, and one of the most striking findings this year has been a significant shift in the challenges faced by professional services firms. For years, navigating uncertainty in the marketplace has taken the number one spot, but this year's study revealed a new top contender, which is incorporating AI and automation. High-growth firms are not only recognizing this challenge, but they're actively seeking to understand and leverage AI's potential. In fact, AI is the top trend that they want to learn more about in 2025. So what I want to know is, how are you guys seeing AI influence your day-to-day lives and your work life at Hinge?
Yeah, I think it's natural, honestly. Let's just think about it from the perspective of how AI has kind of dominated our lives, right? And how we've gone from everybody's first experience with AI being Alexa, and Alexa's about to go off right next to me, apologies. Stop. But we've gone from that being everybody's first expectation or experience with the tool, the functionality, the ability to have something in your back pocket to support you, to now it's ingrained across everything we do. MB and I think we both picked up a new vehicle recently, and this thing's got the ability for us to talk to it. It might even drive itself realistically. And that shift has happened so quickly. It's only natural then to see it infused in how people are doing their work on a day-to-day basis. I know we could definitely dive into some of those different pieces, to moving into efficiencies and focusing on things like profitability and client retention. So it was not surprising, let's just say that it has replaced uncertainty with something that has become certain, which is that this technology is here to stay.
Yeah, we've definitely been making strides in integrating AI into our day-to-day workflow. So, things as simple as like note-taking and follow-up comms, things that just have traditionally been such an administrative burden. Being able to offload those and create that additional capacity and bandwidth of team has been huge.
It's interesting because I remember back in March 2023, I did a webinar with one of the managing partners at Hinge, Carl Feldman, and it was about ChatGPT and the future of professional services marketing. And all the way back then, like when this technology came to the market and everybody started using it, it was like one of the biggest webinars we'd ever done. Like the interest was like super, super hot then, but like everything was so fresh and new and like really, I think that the AI narrative was contributing to the uncertainty narrative back then. But what stands out to me is that was 2 years ago. I mean, this stuff still feels really new, but I mean, 2 years is a pretty considerable amount of time, especially when we're in a space like marketing, which is constantly changing. I mean, I look back to kind of some of the things that we said in that webinar, and I think they all still kind of work because we stuck to more big picture strategies. But I just think about the biggest change and why I think this flipped from uncertainty to actually specifically saying that, incorporating AI and automation into your business is the top challenge. I think the reason for that, of why that is that now we have a lot more of a concrete idea of what the challenge is. We see all the technology platforms kind of hitting us and like being advertised to us as marketers. We are, I think, in our roles, sort of expected to be pioneers in using this technology. Marketing generally is expected to kind of be on the front lines of like making sure that we're staying ahead as a company. I don't know, Joe, would you agree with that?
I can't disagree with anything you said. And I actually, in the lead up to this podcast, did the same thing you did, which was go back and review that webinar that you and Carl did a few years back. And a lot of, we'll just call you both Nostradamus, right? Because a lot of what you had talked about rang true in the fact that this was going to continue to proliferate across the entire picture of marketing, business development, sales, whatever terms you want to use, and where those pieces would start to then eke into, I mean, you referenced it, the administrative elements, right? Replacing some of the more onerous tasks. The big thing, I think, is in this role that we have, this marketing business development front end role, the ability for us to kind of own that in not just Hinge as a marketing agency, but when you're sitting in that role as a marketing director of a, let's say, 100-person architecture, engineering, construction firm, and small team, a lot of proposal responsibilities. Shout out to the AEC folks who know exactly what I'm talking about. But you've got these new technologies, got these new elements that can be infused and improve and develop efficiencies. So there's just a natural opportunity here. I think one of the things we've talked about internally quite a bit is experimentation is key. Go back to what I was saying at the start. A lot of us are experimenting with these things on a day-to-day basis in just our daily lives, right? There's times now where folks, myself included, are using Gemini, ChatGPT instead of throwing something into Google like we used to. Google's responding, right? Generative AI search, answer boxes, all of those types of elements is greatly shifted. And anybody who's been plugged in on the digital marketing side has just naturally seen this. So there's a definite opportunity here for marketers to be experts in what is a awesome and expanding realm of what is our day-to-day life.
Yeah, so for that webinar that I mentioned, I actually went back and looked, and there is a blog post that we published at the same time, covered the same content. Good repurposing strategy on our point and on our part. And this is dated back on March 1st, 2023. And so in the article, we laid out 4 strategies for professional services firms in a chat GPT world. So I'm going to list these 4 things out. You guys tell me kind of what you think. The first one was thought leadership is king now. So not just content, but thought leadership. Differentiation will matter more than ever now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Doing high quality campaigns as opposed to just more content. And then finally, humanize your brand with integrated marketing strategies. So techniques that really put your experts and your influencers out there. What do you guys make of those four strategies? I think they all roughly apply today still. I think they do. But what stands out to you guys?
Yeah, I mean, for me, well, first of all, I think all 4 of those still very much resonate today. I know for myself, one place I'm using AI a lot is on that content side and developing my own content for the Hinge website. I've been able to almost cut down my time in half when I'm writing a blog post because, I can really come to it, with like, what is my idea? What is my outline for that idea? What are those core points that I want to hit? And then in a back and forth engagement with AI, it's really helping, it really helps me bring my vision for that post to life. So, I mean, from a time saving perspective, it's been huge.
Yeah, and MB, I would say it helps us bring this podcast to life too. I mean, we're using, for the pivotal stories and kind of writing some introductions and stuff like that. It does really help us as a team, be able to do more, accomplish more, which, I don't think is necessarily always the end goal, but, efficiency, right? It's all about efficiency in terms of how we go about things. Joe, what about you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the big ones that still stand out, I mean, all of them stand out. Emily covered that perfectly correct. I also would not be able to contribute anything on the blog without AI at this point. I think when you had me writing blogs pre-ChatGPT days and the ability to kind of have things storyboard and so forth, it would be a painful process. Partly why I don't write as many blogs as I probably should. But now, I mean, you've got the ability to narrate into these tools, organize your thoughts, collaborate. We're on the Google system. There's a lot of great collaboration tools there for us. But the ones that stand out to me is that differentiation and humanizing side. So anybody who's had any amount of experience in developing proposals know that by having good sound templates, you can reduce down what can be an extremely time consuming and, it's depending on the business line you're in, sometimes unrewarding based on win percentages and RFPs and so forth. But what AI has really enabled, especially when you have the types of tools like I mentioned, we're Google. So Gemini being plugged into our proposal decks and slide decks and docs and so forth, where we can take things like the transcripts from our calls, the email threads, the back and forth brainstorming that the team has done, and build into that framework using prompts, information that allows us to truly connect in with what our prospects are saying, with what our clients are saying. So it's not just the standard lip service mumbo jumbo crap that, a lot of times gets scanned over because it's just the same, right? Oh, okay. Boring, whatever trope. But no, look, we can get, without having to spend the time to sit there and re-listen to every recording and read every email or back and forth or look at every single note, we can combine all that into storyboarding elements and then grow it and develop something that is truly within our unique voice, but is directly tied to the issues and topics that our customers care about. Win percentage last year plus that we've gone and done this, Hinge's win percentage increased 15-20%. So that's an actual statistic. And I think a major part of that is that process that I was just describing.
This is not going to be the last time that we talk about AI. Clearly, for us marketers, it's imperative that we stay as pioneers in the space, keep testing out new tools, keep working with our colleagues and helping them to kind of understand the limitations, but also the efficiencies of it. So much to cover here in the near future. But we've got a great segment planned. Let's jump into that now after we have a quick word about this research we keep talking about, the high growth study. Let's learn more about that. All right. So, Joe and B, I've got a question for you. What if I could tell you that today you could get just direct insights on what the fastest growing professional services firms are doing in their marketing program? Would that be of interest to you? Would you want to see that kind of data?
I would say I love this for me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that I would literally take my glasses off and stare longingly at the camera over.
Well, good, because I have great news. The 2025 high growth study is here. And anybody listening to this podcast can get free access to the executive summary that includes all the professional services firms that we surveyed this year, which is over 700. It's a decent sample size, to understand what is the fastest growing professional services firms doing. That research is available right now. If you go to hingemarketing.com/high growth, you will always and forever go to that link and get the most up-to-date research on the fastest growing professional services firms. So go do that now.
Do it.
Do it.
All right. So as football fans, I know that the three of us always look forward to the NFL draft. And since the draft is coming up, we thought we would make this the inspiration for today's segment, for today's episode. So let me say, MB and Joe, welcome to the 2025 Spiraling Up Marketing Draft. Here we are.
Wow.
Here we are. Glad to be here, Austin. We're ready.
All right. So how this will work in this episode, we're channeling our inner Adam Peters. Yeah, that's the Washington Commanders GM. Brad Holmes. There's your Lions GM, MB.
Thank you.
Howie Roseman. Boo,
No.
Eagles.
Boo,
How about
Eagles.
Brett Veach? He's the Chiefs. Okay, this is getting a little bit too nerdy, but you get the point. In this segment, we're going to strategically select marketing techniques that will build a championship caliber marketing strategy. So forget quarterbacks and wide receivers. In our marketing draft, we're going to be selecting marketing techniques that were included in this year's high growth study. So MB, Joe, and I, we're going to take turns drafting marketing techniques onto our teams and building a roster strategies to conquer any challenge. But it's not just about picking the best team. We'll have to justify our picks and explain how each technique fits into our game plan.
Ooh.
So, are you guys ready to kick off the first ever spiraling up draft?
Let's do it.
Oh man, I'm ready. This is it's a long time coming, Austin, especially after we discontinued the Hinge Fantasy Football League.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, a decision that I know you guys, especially Mary Blanche, is very upset about, since she would occasionally dominate that league for many years.
And by occasionally, we mean every single time. At
Almost
least beat
every
Joe.
time.
At least beat Joe anyway. So.
You at least beat Joe.
That alone, I take that. as a-
Hashtag beat Joe is the bumper sticker.
All right, guys. Here is our draft board.
Wow. You put this together?
I did. I had some help. I had, Hinge has a great design team. We collaborated a little bit. Got to get the old dust
Shout
off
out
the
tier
tier
maker.
maker. Yeah, shout out tier maker.
This is nice.
This is
Colors
great,
on
right?
brand. I love it.
I thought MB was going to have to hand write all this down to keep us honest.
Great. Well, look, in a randomly selected draft order, MB,
Wait.
you get the first pick of today's marketing draft. So the first overall pick, always lots of pressure. What are you gonna choose?
Okay, let me see. All right, for my first round pick, I'm going to go with networking at targeted events and conferences.
All right. Networking and targeted conferences is off the board. MB, why is that the first selection? That's a big one.
Yeah, I mean, for me, there's a huge opportunity for professional services firms here to gain new business in this way. Targeted approach is definitely key here. So we're not talking like general networking happy hour on a Tuesday night, right? But when you're bringing intentionality to how you're selecting these conferences, how you're selecting these, you can just really bring your company presence there and increase your brand value, your visibility, and that's the competitive edge.
I think it's a great pick. If we go to the high growth study data, what we see in terms of level of impact, right? So what are the marketing techniques that are most impactful? Networking at targeted conferences was listed as the fourth most impactful technique. So you're right there at the top of the list, and I think you made a good case. Joe, what do you think about the pick?
I'm bummed. It was absolutely what I was looking for. I mean, might have been lucky to see it fall to. I'm guessing you're making me 3 in this random order. Am I right?
Yeah, actually, yes, you are right.
I can see it already on the screen.
And also, it's random order.
I guess I was never gonna get to what has absolutely become especially coming out of the COVID era, right? Something that is as important a part of any high growth strategy. And absolutely the targeting piece, MB, great. I completely agree with you. There's got to be an element of focus around this in order for this to make any amount of sense, because you can blow a boatload of money on conferences, trade shows, and events if you're not being sensible or thoughtful towards how it's being done.
Good points. All right, so the timer on the draft has continued to tick, and it's been my pick. So with the second overall pick in this 2025 marketing draft, I'm going to select conducting and publishing primary research. So here's my case for this. I'm not really using the data here, although I like to, kind of use the data here with a lot of these. I'm thinking of this more of like a big picture, like in a marketing program, right? Like, what is the foundation of my content marketing program going to be? For me, I think especially as we've talked about with like AI and how easy it is now to create content. I want to be creating content that is unique to my business. I want to be creating content that nobody can steal or imitate, or if they do, they have to reference me and they have to reference my company. So I think to stand out and to kind of still lean into the content marketing strategy, I'm going to go with conducting and publishing primary research. What do you guys think of my pick?
Well, it's a true homer pick for sure, but there's a reason. I honestly speaking, and if you aren't tying your efforts directly to the issues that your customers care most about, then you're lost. So the fact that you can then turn that around and leverage it as content itself and as marketing technique is a double whammy of efficiency. So another good pick, another one that I was hoping would fall, but I guess I'll figure something out based on the remaining choices.
Yeah, Austin, I I have my notes over here, right? My potential picks, and having to cross that one off the list now. Thank you. But yeah, good pick. Don't blame me. That one was right up there for me too.
All right, Joe, it's on to you now.
Well, thanks for giving me this opportunity, Austin. Third doesn't necessarily mean that I'm out of the running. Feel like I can still create a nice, solid team. And I'm going to build it off of an old faithful. I've got an idea here, too, to make sure that pushes this through. But for my first round pick and the third overall pick, I will be selecting keyword research and search engine optimization.
All right.
Which should spark some interest based on the fact that I'm pretty sure every single flamboyant prognosticator in the marketing space has posted some form or another of the blog SEO is dead. Some sort of title around the idea that SEO is dead. It's over. AI, the overlords are taking, I'm sounding like Carl Feldman, Hinge partner at this point. But the fact of the matter is the best practices that have driven SEO for at least the last 5 to 6 years still ring true in all things AI, in all things generative search. If it's original, if it's thoughtful, if it's not generated by AI entirely, at least, you are going to be creating something that's going to resonate not just on the SEO side, but in a lot of these other new techniques, of which are embracing AI tools to figure elements out. And another big piece here is the fact that you see the word research in this piece as well. That keyword research is imperative. And if your keyword research is just pulled from a tool like a SEMrush or a Moz, things along those lines, great. It's better than just pulling it out of thin air. But in reality, what you should be doing is leveraging the types of research that you referenced earlier in how you build out a strategy. So you were chasing the issues, the topics, the challenges, the pieces that really do resonate with the types of customers you care about. So by combining keyword research into SEO, by activating it in the manner of which you should do it, the ways that we were just talking through, or that I was just talking through, I think you're going to get more bang for your buck. So SEO is not dead, and it is my first pick.
Well, and when you look at all the other tactics we have on the board to select from right now, I mean, it's a huge part of a lot of these, whether you're writing content, you've got to have that keyword research, SEO. If it's paid ads, that's a component of it. If you're building a new website, it's important that you have the keyword SEO strategy there as well. So, I mean, it really, while it's its own entity and tactic on this board, it really flows into so many of these.
Yeah, I have a little bit of data to add for perspective here. So, I mean, one thing that with those articles you mentioned, Joe, about the people that write about SEO is dead.
SEO is dead.
Look, I wrote one similar. I think I called it Panic. Panic at the SEO disco. So I didn't say that it was dead. I said that, there's a lot for us to think about. It's
You millennial, you.
Yeah. So, but when people say stuff like that, right, my instinct is to say, well, okay, so then what, we're just ignoring search engines? We're just so with our Hinge clients, we regularly interview and survey and research their buyers. Search engines is still right at the top of the list right now, next to getting referrals in terms of how people are finding you. So if you're ignoring search engines, I'd say that's probably a bad strategy. And I mean, the preferred method would be to continue to pay attention to it and continue to evolve your strategy. So I think it's a great pick there, Joe. All right,
Happy to hear it.
Joe, I know you're going to be upset about this. We're not doing a snake draft. This is not fantasy football. This is
No.
NFL. This is NFL style. No holds bar. We're going to go back to the top of the order. MB, why don't you give us your second pick here?
I'm under protest already.
I was like, womp womp. All right,
is
let's
crap.
see. All right, for my number 2, I am going to go with downloadable gated content. To me, that one's a no-brainer. I mean, gated content is just such a powerful way to capture those high-quality leads and establish your company as a trusted industry expert, and it also builds such credibility.
I think it's a good pick. I mean, you think about like, combined with your networking at targeted events and stuff. I think a lot of times when we're talking to our clients, I'm always asking them like, okay, so when you go to these events, like what's the takeaway? What kind of call to action do you have to offer? So I like the little 1-2 combination you picked there, because I think when you have gated content on your website readily available, when you do those networking events, when you're kind of socializing or networking on social media, and people do check you out, there's a way for them to get into your kind of broader email marketing system and nurture marketing system. So I think that's a smart pick in my books. Joe, what do you think?
Yeah, and as you led off your description and the use of the word a trusted expert, or I think every accounting firm's favorite phrase, trusted advisor, just saying you are a trusted advisor does not make you a trusted advisor, right? Like that's something that's expected. If you're going to pay somebody a decent amount of money to work with them, yeah, you better be somebody I'm going to trust on how you're advising me on an ongoing basis. But a good way that you can develop that trust at an earlier stage prior to where they're paying you money is by putting your expertise out there for them to learn and understand from. And at that stage of the funnel where you're exchanging that insight, that hot topic for something as simple as a name and an email at a minimum, but certainly you can get more expansive, especially using tools like we've been talking about on the AI side, where you're progressively profiling and collecting information from your prospects. It's a very good pick, MB.
Thank you very much. And I mean, not to go down a total rabbit hole here on this, but kind of some of what you were saying about that information collection piece, the data for the sales teams, right? So,
Right.
it allows you to be able to prioritize the leads who are actively engaging with your content, or even use it to, tailor your outreach to create, a more meaningful connection with the prospect.
Preach. Absolutely. It's so important.
All right, it's back to me. So for the 5th pick in the 2025 spiraling up marketing draft, wow, what a mouthful. I am going to select speaking at targeted conferences and events. So look, I'm glad that this one fell to me. I'm surprised that this fell to me at the 5th pick. And I'll tell you why. So when we go into the data, something that we have consistently seen in our high growth study, but also our research on visible experts, is that speaking at targeted conferences and events is regularly considered to be one of the most impactful marketing techniques in professional services. So at Hinge, we do make a distinction. Mary Blanche did pick the networking at the events. We do distinguish between networking and speaking because we do see that there is a big discrepancy between the amount of companies that participate in events, that sponsor events, that network at events, and the ones that are also adding in that speaking layer. That definitely adds kind of a different level of investment, but also to the strategy at play. So for me, the way I'm looking at this here is I'm going for a strong authority play here with my team. I'm conducting and publishing the research, and now I'm going to target events and I'm speaking about it. The other thing that we talk about, especially with the visible experts, is that when you can be seen speaking, and this isn't just applied for events, although events is kind of what I'm talking about, but any kind of speaking, podcasts, webinars, you do have an opportunity to establish yourself as an authority on the topic that you're discussing. So for me, and I'm really happy this fell for me. Joe, you sounded disappointed. What are your thoughts?
It was absolutely what I was hoping that would fall to me too. And look, I mean, I think this is a step up from MB's number one overall pick. And if you don't have, we'll say if we're really looking at this from a team building perspective, if you don't have something reasonable to talk about, you're not going to get the opportunity to speak anyways. You can usually, though, find your way into networking at a conference or trade show or an event, right? Like the bar to clear there is usually money, right? And it depends on how much you want to spend. But when you're taking that next step up in how you're creating visibility as for the individuals that are speaking, their personal visibility, shout out Visible Expert, but also the visibility it generates for organizations that they're representing. There's a reason why it is as high on the research as it is, as an important piece. And if you can pull it off, it absolutely needs to be included in your strategy.
Yeah, 100%. I like the way you tied your first pick to your second. Like I see where you're going with it.
Thank you. All right, Joe, it's back down to you for the 6th pick.
Oh boy. All right. I'm going to bounce around. Yours is kind of very much a funnel perspective, Austin, and how you describe that. Mine is going to be a jump because I think it's much lower than on the funnel where keyword research and search engine optimization is. But I'm going to, as somebody who does quite a bit of this in my day-to-day role, I'm going to select with my second pick and the 6th overall pick, which is, again, still BS because this should be a snake draft and I should have had the 4th pick. My pick will be digital product services and demonstrations, which I also, correct me if I'm wrong, Austin, I think impact-wise, it's near the top on the research.
It is listed as the most impactful marketing technique in professional services, right side by side with assessments and consultations.
Well, I think there's a lot of logic behind why it shows up there, right? And the fact that most organizations in some form or fashion have that as a part of their sales process. The fact of the matter is, in professional services, this is not an impulse buy. People are not buying your service like they buy Coke or Pepsi, or I think I was talking in a recent podcast about Baja Blast Mountain Dew, which is absolutely the number one soda. I'll continue to hammer on that point. But the big piece here is if you have the opportunity to get an expert, not that I'm claiming to be one, but somebody who does this for a living and talks about it and can connect in the service, the offering, the product, the element of which you're trying to make a sale on, to issues, topics, challenges, elements of which these buyers care about. And MB already referenced it. If you have some insight on them from their journey and what led them to you in the first place, even better, right? You can plug that in and start making those connection points. It is an imperative piece in your process to making sure that you have that stage before you send a proposal where you are warming this person up to the idea that they're about to make a investment. In theory, they're about to make it, but in reality, a lot of times it takes more time. But you are making these folks comfortable in their selection that you're bringing to the table. So digital products, services, and demonstrations combined with keyword research, search engine optimization, and the reasons behind it, I'm feeling good with my 2 picks, even though you all stuck me in the bottom of this draft order.
Good for you.
No, I think it's a good pick. I mean, we talk to our clients all the time about having a clear call to action, right? Like what, with all your marketing materials, with all of your marketing strategies, like ideally what would be the next ideal step to get people into the business development process, right? And so I think that you've picked a great one there with this choice in terms of having a clear call to action strategy. I think it's a non-negotiable and it's essential component of good professional services marketing. Any thoughts from you, MB?
Not that you guys haven't already covered. Honestly, this one was less on my radar, I think just because of the way it's described. But after hearing Joe talk about the way you did, I'm kind of jealous. It's not.
All right, well, don't let that jealousy creep on you too long because now it is back to your pick here. This is the halfway point, so we've got 2 more rounds left. So it's this is where championships are made, as you know from your multiple fantasy football championships, MB.
Yes, I feels good to be a winner. So with that said, I'm going to go with social media advertising for my third pick. And with this one, I just think that there's a lot of misconception out there that advertising on social media is, much more of a B2C tool. But social media advertising for professional services, it can really help you reach a highly targeted audience. It's a much more cost-effective way to nurture relationships throughout the buyer journey.
Yeah, no arguments there, MB. I think it goes really well with your second pick, if I'm being honest, because having content is king in social media advertising for professional services. Think about how we use these platforms. I mean, certainly there's the LinkedIn zealots who are on that platform religiously. I think we're going to talk to quite a few of them in the podcast, mostly in an effort to promote the idea of the benefits you can get from being on the platform. But for the rest of us, we scroll through these platforms as a way to disconnect a lot of times. A lot of times it's to just, hey, I'm interested in learning something or seeing what's going on, or, who's moved to a new role, or if it's, Facebook, it's, who's had a baby, right? So when this type of message comes across, though, where you're, in a sense, you're pulling the mind towards where you can make a connection on the marketing side, having content is going to be the best angle or play, because it's the type of thing that doesn't make them feel like they're immediately going to get hit by a salesperson, right? And while there are certainly organizations that still do that, even though the offer was really just for a piece of content, you are providing something to a hyper targeted audience that, if researched correctly, if titled correctly, I mean, the creative you use in these advertisements is important too, that your ability to get somebody at, that you may not have gotten otherwise is increased. And that's the game in marketing, right? We're trying to best utilize the various channels we have in the most efficient manner possible.
No, I mean, I think this is a great pick. I mean, for a lot of our clients, this is like a key strategy, right? And Joe, I think you and MB have both already covered how linking that to the content, the downloadable content piece is like, that is another one of those things where it's like a nice combination, because if you're going to invest in, say, like LinkedIn advertising, which is where generally in our Hinge engagements, we do recommend a lot of our clients look first in terms of social media advertising and spend. You're going to want to have that like content to get people into that, to generate those leads or generate those opportunities. So I think it's another great pick. All right, so it's back to me now for my third pick. And man, I am going back and forth. I'm looking across this list and I'm just like, I could go here, I could go there. But I think this is just bias because it's something that I do quite a lot. And I help train our clients on this quite a bit too, is presenting in webinars. Just going back and forth on a few other things and possibilities, but similar to what I mentioned before about, that speaking at targeted conferences and events, webinars, and this is actually to my surprise, when I look at the high growth study data, webinars continue to be a higher performing marketing technique for professional services firms across different industries. There are industry variations to this, but we'll say like for consulting companies, as an example, this is right there at the top of the list in terms of how people are hosting online digital conversations. It's a great way to get, live feedback from your audience, Q&A. It's a way to get, do some polls. I mean, there's a lot of features that have been added to the webinar environment over the years that I think work really well for thought leadership expertise and professional services marketing in general. So I doubt that that's a surprise to you guys that I would pick webinars, since I've probably done, I don't know, over 150 Hinge webinars so far. But that's my pick.
Yeah, I almost took it as my second pick just to be a troll, honestly. But I figured, if MB let you, if it slipped past MB, I'd be happy for you to take it. And it is such a great way, especially for folks that haven't quite gotten to the live speaking, to get themselves the reps it takes to improve. And your journey, I think, is a perfect example, Austin, from when you walked in day one where you would kind of just turn the webinar on and push questions around to the host, to the point now where you are pretty much the host of every single Hinge webinar, is a perfect example, though, of where you can kind of grow an individual's visibility in addition to the tactic, right? And it's a great tactic because, like gated content, you are usually, almost always, collecting information from your buyers in exchange for them to have access. And that information is just so important as a part of the larger picture in how we can market to them, how we can nurture them, how your sales folks can have insights on them. We had a really interesting stat that came across in our early days where we had made the shift to a more enterprise Salesforce platform. And we're talking 7 or 8 years ago. But one of the first things that stood out to us was that over 50% of our new clients that we brought in a given year had gone to at least 2 Hinge webinars, had registered, attended, downloaded, things along those lines. So a massive chunk. Now, admittedly, there's some other tactics that have risen in popularity and maybe have eroded at some of what you're kind of shouting out here with webinars.
Yep.
One of which is going to be my next pick, has in a way taken some bite out of that. But in general, it is still a very solid way to market yourself to a target audience.
All right. Well, you teed it up, Joe. Tell us, what's that next pick of yours?
Yeah, I can't believe it made it this far, but it's an important one, guys. It's one that I'm really happy. I'm really happy to see it. Really happy to see it come down to me and be available. But the idea of interviewing on a podcast or radio is a extremely valuable way to develop expertise, whether that's being done on your own podcast or being done as a part of an outreach strategy to improve your visibility, your organization's visibility, your visible expert nature. It's, you're getting the opportunity to leverage a network, right? One of the biggest strategies that we're seeing podcasts take on is, of course, they're just interviewing their target audiences, their clients. It is a natural way to just make connections in a salesy way that doesn't feel like a sale, right? Mm-hmm. People like to talk, especially buyers and decision makers. They love to talk. Maybe not necessarily about the right things, but they like to talk. So we're giving them a platform to do that, whether you're hosting it or in reverse, right? Where you're having, as a part of your outreach strategy, we're reaching out and leveraging others potentially who may give you access to an audience that you wouldn't otherwise naturally get through SEO, or that you could necessarily carry that digital product service demonstration. So I needed to start to build in my middle, lower funnel tactics, and this is one for me.
Yeah, I mean, clearly, MB and I both like the pick. We are on a podcast right now. MB, what do you any thoughts on Joe's pick there on adding podcast into his mix?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the reasons you just described, it's a good one. Some of our other partners at Hinge, they're very active on, being guests on other podcasts. So even prior to us starting our own podcast, that's something that's very much been a part of something we do here at Hinge. And it's just a great way to showcase your visible expertise, both your personal expertise and the expertise of your organization.
All right. Well, look. We are here. This is the last round of the first ever draft. MB, why don't you tell us, there's still a lot of decent options here on the board. What's going to be the final pick for your team here?
I'm kind of struggling here. I'm between a couple, but I think I'm going to go with PR. Call me biased. PR was my major in college, but public relations just plays such a crucial role in shaping organizational perception and the overall credibility of professional services firms. So, whether it's paid media or it's earned media, together they really form that integrated communication strategy that leads to that substantial business growth.
Yeah, this is one, and in our high growth study, we have a whole glossary here that kind of unpacks like what we include as like under these categories. Same with the survey experience, right? So the people that selected this in our research kind of know what they were choosing. PR is very inclusive, under our definition, where we're talking about everything from securing speaking engagements out there, whether that be similar to the one that I picked on my list there, or like guest vlogging, writing, or just, getting, just pitching topics to get picked up on more traditional news outlets as well. Really, this kind of covers like an expansive part of professional services marketing, and one that, through the years, we've helped a lot of clients I know really level up the visibility of their experts by getting them out there kind of more, often in terms of like speaking on topics, contributing to articles, getting on new podcasts. So I think PR and kind of everything under that falls under that umbrella, MB, it's a good pick. Joe, any thoughts there on the PR pick?
Yeah, there's a reason that PR has been a thing for as long as it has been, and attracted MB to make it her major. So it's still super important. I mean, we like to try to sometimes talk about the differences between digital and traditional and so forth, but as a tactic, the idea of going out and earning media, it should be a significant consideration for any professional services firm.
All right. Well, it's on to me here for my final pick, and I thought, when I picked webinars, that I kind of paused for a minute because I was like, if I pick webinars too early, I'm gonna miss out on this other one because they really work well together, and that's kind of a combination I wanted to talk about, and that is the combination between webinars and email marketing. So.
Yeah.
In my experience, like I mentioned, I've probably hosted over 150 webinars at this point, and I've helped advise a lot of our clients on producing webinars and promoting webinars. I can tell you that your email marketing system and the list of prospects that you develop on that email marketing chain, that's really going to help make the webinar experience a lot better. If you want to promote kind of a live environment with like people that know you and that are, already pretty interested in who you are and what you have to say, email marketing is kind of right there. And I think it kind of goes for all of thought leadership content. As email marketing, if you're doing it the right way, which is, not to spam people's inbox all the time with sales offers, it is to literally just provide helpful content and be an authoritative voice that is, becomes known for being helpful and being, educational in nature. I think it is an essential component of a professional services marketing program. So for that reason, I'll put it on, and I'm happy to kind of complete my team there. I think it's looking good. What do you guys think on the email marketing side?
I'm surprised it took you that long to pick it. That and webinars were the two that I think when we saw this list that stood out to me for you personally, Austin, knowing how involved you are in that for both Hinge and our clients. Email is still such an important way to get in touch with your prospects, your clients. And while there's certainly a game to be played there, and the amount of filtering and elements like the Google and Microsoft have brought to the table in terms of spam catching and so forth, you have to be smart in how you utilize these tools. So I think for those that are still staying on top of best practices, email marketing is essential.
Yeah, Austin, it's a good pick. Email marketing and presenting webinars. I did think those would be your one and two picks, but I like the way that you went about it, and recognizing that you have the primary research piece too, and how you take the webinars, and leverage them both through your email marketing campaign. And you got a pretty solid team there.
All right, so that's it. We're here at the last end of the draft here. Joe, you've got the final pick. Anything on the board, it's yours. What are you going to choose to complete your team?
Well, the NFL calls this, I believe, Mr. Irrelevant, right? I don't think of a lot of the things you're seeing on the board here, none of these are irrelevant. So
Correct.
I won't throw that title at this, but I think my final pick is going to be one that might surprise, in the sense that when we did our research, it was not one that was identified or even just referenced by a majority of clients, right? Or respondents, right? People that were going through and entering this, but we're talking about impact, and we were trying to select tactics that can carry a significant amount of impact. So video blogging was selected, I think, by 80 or 90 out of 600, 700 respondents who answered this question. But it still, I think, was in the top 10 of impact, or it might even been 8 or 9 or something like that, in terms of those that are doing it are seeing impact. And just recognizing how content is being distributed these days and what we are, again, embracing as a part of our day to day, right? Like, best marketing happens all the time, not necessarily just when somebody's plugged in 9 to 5. Blame TikTok, right? I mean, the idea here, I guess Vine, shout out Vine. They had it first, right? But the idea of taking expertise and creating content in a video format, something of which we're doing with this very podcast, and putting it out into social media, on websites, in a variety of ways to potentially publish ourselves as experts who may be brought in to speak on a topic, things along those lines. It's also the type of content that you can take the transcripts, run them through AI, and create content, written content, actual writing blogs and so forth. So when combining that in with the fact I've done some keyword research and I'm still focusing on search engine optimization, I've got this awesome product of which I can then sell after I've brought people in via my interviews or my podcasting or my video content creation. I think I've created a nice little cycle here that makes my team a solid one.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think video blogging is. I think that in our episode with Dane Fredrickson, we talked to him a lot about the challenges and barriers that professional services firms have in general that keeps them from starting to do more video production and invest in it. And there are many, but there are those that are kind of overcoming that hurdle. And as you mentioned, the data seems to suggest that those firms that are making it as part of their plan do rate it very favorably in terms of getting in front of their audience, building visibility and credibility with their buyers. MB, any final thoughts there on that one?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's a good pick. I think we're seeing more and more of it. And the hardest part with this is really just the video blogging piece specifically is just getting started. So I think once you're over that hurdle, you're working with a marketing team or, a video expert like Dane is a great example. Taking that step is the hardest part.
All right. Well, this concludes the first ever, maybe last, we'll see. Maybe it'll be fun to do this again next year, but maybe we'll mix in some new voices. Marketing draft. I mean, this is fun. I think everybody gets the kind of spirit of this. It's not that the techniques down there at the bottom are not unimportant. In fact, I think we left off quite a few that I would say deserve to be in the kind of the top 12 or whatever we picked today. But no, this really was, mostly just a fun way for the three of us to have a conversation about what we're seeing kind of out there in the professional services marketplace, a little bit about, what the data is telling us, and really just having fun about how these things interplay. At the end of the day, I think we all would say, and kind of the work that we do with our clients is that whatever marketing program you do build, those pieces got to connect, right? And you want to build a strategy that's well balanced. You're thinking about visibility, but you're also thinking about conversion, right? You're thinking about your website, but you're also thinking about things that are in the offline space as well. So there's a lot of things that we think about as marketers, but this is a really fun exercise. Joe and B, did you guys have a good time?
Always. Yeah, this was fun. We should definitely do it again. I like the idea of the annual marketing draft.
We might have to have some sort of contest for a listener to be able to join us and participate. There could be some sort of gamification here. Maybe filling in positive 5-star reviews. You can make yourself eligible. We're not allowed to say that, right? You're supposed to. Reviews should be natural, right? 5-star reviews should be natural.
Yeah. What I'll say, Joe, is, I think that any feedback people give us about the podcast is welcome and great. And we want to thank you guys for listening. If you are watching on YouTube, leave us a comment. What boneheaded pick did we make that you were like, how did you leave case stories off, or whatever you're passionate about? I mean, honestly, we love hearing from people and understanding like what's working in their space, what's working for their company. So send us your feedback. Find us on email, find us on LinkedIn. We are easy people to find. I will say that, which is good. So I want to thank everybody for another great episode of the Spiraling Up podcast. And we'll be back here in a couple of weeks. Thanks again, Joe. Thanks again, MB. We'll see you on the next one.
See you soon.